Today is the day! Super Mario 3D All-Stars came out, and I'm sure a lot of you already got the game, but for those who haven't, or just people who want to hear our opinions, we decided to do some first impressions of the game. You know, stuff like what we think of the collection of games, the performance, presentation, and things we'd like to see. Stuff like that.
hmm Yeah, it's been interesting going back to revisit these games, I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
revisit them often, to have it on the Switch, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool because for one, it's nice having all these games on one system because it's convenient, and you can bring them on the go if you
Yeah.
want to. I know some people just like to play their Switch at home, or, some people have a Switch Lite and that's all they really can play on. But it's nice having them on the
Mhm.
Switch regardless. Now, there has been a lot of controversy surrounding the game. I've critiqued it, I've gone over my issues with the game, and now that I have it, I just really want to go over, if some of those criticisms were not as bad as I thought they would be, and stuff I would have liked to see from the collection. This isn't really a case where I thought I was going to hate this game so much because it's a collection of three of Mario's greatest adventures. I knew I was going to love it. But really just how's the
Mhm.
presentation, how's the performance, collection of games, and just things we would have liked to see in the game. So I'll start off with a collection of games. These are three of Mario's greatest games. I mean, 64 isn't one of my personal favorites. I still like it. I would have preferred if they had the DS version, but these are three of Mario's
Yeah.
greatest 3D platformers. Greatest adventures of all time, no doubt about that. And I think the collection here is good, but it could have been way better. And of course, I know you know exactly what I mean by this.
Yeah. I know you mean Mario's Time Machine. I know we all wanted that. Um,
Actually, I was going to say
don't know
Hotel
why they keep.
Mario.
Oh yeah, that too. I mean, I don't know why they keep omitting those games. It's like Nintendo didn't make them or something.
Or better yet, have Super Mario Run.
Oh God, please no.
Super Mario Run with widescreen and button controls. That actually wouldn't be
Waluigi,
too bad.
maybe Waluigi could be a playable character exclusive to the Switch.
Yeah, it would probably be someone like Toda. Oh, actually, no, she was in the actual mobile version of the game. And the only version of the game, because I
Yeah.
don't think Nintendo's ever going to revisit Super Mario Run. No, we're of
Thank
course
God.
talking about Super Mario Galaxy 2. That game is considered Mario's best game ever. My favorite's Odyssey, but I think Galaxy 2 has the highest score on Metacritic. And it's just a real
Yeah.
shame that it's not here. It feels empty without it. And there's another game,
It's
3D
yeah.
Land. They're going to throw in 3D Land and Galaxy 2. I think this would have been a perfectly fine collection. It feels a little bit cheap, just giving us the three games. And it really would have felt
hmm
complete if they added 3D Land and Galaxy 2, and I'll tell you why. Galaxy 2, obviously, people really wanted that game. And I know some people said, oh, but Yoshi, the touchscreen controls would be enough. No, they could find a workaround if they really wanted to. And it really wouldn't be that bad. So, I think Nintendo just thought, okay, three games, $60, no more than that. But Galaxy 2 would have been really nice to see. But I also want to get into 3D Land because that's a completely different kind of game compared to the rest of these. And considering the 3DS is now officially out of production, I think it would have been a perfect opportunity to bring it to the Switch. Maybe let a new generation of players play it for the first time. Because it's a really good game. I know you don't like it that much, but it's 3D Mario. And if we had those two games, we would have every 3D Mario game on the Switch, which would be awesome. But no,
Yeah.
it's just these three. And like I said, all three of these are great games. I just really wish we would have seen more in the collection. Even if they didn't have 3D Land, I think Galaxy 2, they definitely could have had that.
Yeah, it kind of boggles my mind why they wouldn't put Galaxy 2 in there. I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but Galaxy controls, I think, really, really well. I think the transition from the Wii to the Switch was phenomenal. And I don't see how the transition for Galaxy 2 would be an issue since they kind of tackled the motion sensor issue with gyro controls, and I think it works pretty well for the most part, you know? Um, 3D Land, 3D Land, I'm a little bit more mixed with, not just because I don't like the game, but it's more because the game uses stereoscopic 3D more than 3D World because 3D World doesn't have that. So to compensate, its levels are bigger. That game uses a lot of depth, and I actually played 3D Land the other day, A lot of jumps that I make in that game are possible because of the 3D presence. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm saying a layer of the gameplay would be kind of lost through that. Would it have been nice to see? Yeah, it would have been. I kind of think though Galaxy 2 was really the big one where I was just kind of like, okay, they could have added this in, and I'm
Exactly.
kind of hoping that maybe this game sells well enough for Nintendo to consider. Well, maybe we could add in maybe a free update that includes Galaxy 2. I doubt they would do that. I think they would just sell a Galaxy 2 on its own because we've discussed this before, but Nintendo loves to be kind of anti-consumer, if you get what I mean. But
Yeah, they've been really greedy
yeah,
in the Furukawa era, but that's a whole nother discussion for another day. And we'll get into if
right.
it was worth the price for this game. So,
Hmm.
going into the actual performance of the games, because the games are the meat and potatoes of the collection,
Right.
I would say performance is really, really good for
Hmm.
Sunshine and Galaxy. They look better than ever in HD. And
Yeah.
Sunshine, I was worried about something. It wasn't 60 frames per second, and that's something I was a little bit worried about. It would have been nice if it was 60 frames per second, but I feel like in addition to the higher resolution, 30 frames per second isn't really an issue. I can still play the game fine. I kind of wish they fixed some of the controls with the camera and such, but it
Hmm.
plays great and it looks great. It really goes to show that if you have a good art direction, years later a game can still look great. And Sunshine is no exception. That game looks beautiful.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Sunshine and how gorgeous it looked in HD. The controls, I thought the controls were going to be clunky from going from GameCube to Switch, but it was actually kind of seamless. The only thing I have a quibble with is the inverted controls for controlling flood when you're squirting water. I'm not a fan of that. I would have preferred if they had the option to invert the controls.
Yeah, they're not inverted.
But yeah, no, my bad. Yeah, they're not inverted, but I don't know. Maybe they could put that in an update sometime soon. But either way, it's something I'll get used to.
I really don't
The
like that
control.
Nintendo. I really don't like how Nintendo has to rely on updates nowadays because the games should be complete and shouldn't have that many problems when they're launched, but continue to go on.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. I mean, at the very least, though, Sunshine feels like Sunshine. Just like I I feel like I'm probably the only one who's going to say this, but I think Sunshine has some really tight controls, and that's just perfectly represented on the Switch. I know not a lot of people like Sunshine for its controls, but I really like it. I think it's really tight and it's really responsive and it's really quick and snappy,
What
and
controller are
I
you
think it
using?
works. I actually tested all of them. I tested the GameCube controller, tested my Joy Cons, and I tested the Pro controller, even though it drifted.
That send it in. I think Nintendo will fix it free of charge.
Yeah, I gotta do that soon. Hopefully, probably next week. But no, Sunshine plays really great. That's actually the game that I played the most of going into the collection. I can't wait to dive back into it after the discussion, even though I beat the game already. But yeah, there's only one main issue I have with the game right now. I don't think they fixed the blue coin issue from the original game. I think that's still present. Um, and that's a little annoying, just because I am going to go 100% for all these games.
Oh yeah, that's very
But
annoying that they didn't fix that.
yeah, I mean, at the very least we could have had a counter, but eh, I can't be that mad. I've been having a blast with Sunshine so far.
Yeah, I mean, these are exactly the same games that we all know and love. Sunshine is great. Really wish they would have fixed the blue coins, but it runs smoother than ever. It looks great. Going on to Galaxy, I played a little bit of that. Definitely more Sunshine. It controls
Yeah.
great. With the Pro controller that I've been using mainly, you tilt it kind of like you did with the cursor in Captain Toad, and it works fine. There are some
Mm.
issues with the cursor kind of getting stuck, but again,
Yeah.
not too big of an issue in the grand scheme of things. And I gotta say, That game looks great, just like Sunshine did. It actually looks even better.
Yeah, I mean, there's some in certain instances where Galaxy's textures weren't updated. Like in Good Egg Galaxy, when you finally beat Dino Piranha, um, and you see the hay there, it's kind of low resolution, but besides a few quibbles there, Galaxy still looks really, really good. Um, Sunshine looks really, really good, and I was actually really impressed with Galaxy's controls. It feels it's not one to one with the nunchuck and the Wii, but it's good enough to the point where I'm like, yeah, you know, I could reasonably play this, and I do like the addition of the Y button to spin.
Yeah, me too. And they did that with the Nvidia Shield version of the game in China. Pretty weird that it released there before we ever got it here. And we'll definitely get into this a little bit later in the discussion, but these
Yeah,
emulation engines are really good. Sunshine
yeah.
runs great. Galaxy runs great. It just really makes me want more Wii and Switch Wii and GameCube games to come to the Switch because it's a great platform for them. They work
The,
perfectly, and you have the benefit of
mhm,
bringing them portably. And by the way,
the o-
GameCube
yeah.
games are very expensive nowadays, and I feel like it'd be great for players who don't want to spend all the money to get a physical copy or, don't have the
Mhm.
hardware, to be able to play them on the Switch. I would say a good price for them would be around $15-$20. I know Wii games were $20 on the Wii U, and considering the content you're getting, if they're in widescreen and look like this, then yeah, I'd say it's totally worth it.
Right. I mean, I I do have something to say about that later on this in the discussion, but what I'll say is I think there's a reason why this is going to be a limited release both digitally and physically. So we'll get into that later in the discussion, but I did want to mention quickly before we move on to the next topic that I actually don't mind the touchscreen controls for the star pointer and some of the mechanics in Galaxy. I think that's actually a really clever thing to do. Does it take some getting used to? Yeah, but I don't think it's intrusive at all. I mean, I don't know what your opinion on it is.
I used it a little bit. It controls okay. I would have liked the option to use gyro to tilt the Switch so you could use that as a cursor, but it
Mhm.
works fine. I really don't
Yeah,
have that big of an issue with it, and they had to find a workaround somehow, and it works fine. I don't really
yeah,
have an issue with it. It's not as good as having the pointer, but for handheld mode, it works fine. And
yeah. I
not to
mean,
mention,
yeah.
you can always take the Joy-Cons off and, play with the motion controls, just like you could in the
Yeah.
Wii era with the Wii and Nunchuck. So, the Wii Remote and
Hmm.
Nunchuck. So, you'd be getting the same experience, but in HD. And I gotta say, these are pretty great ways to play the games. So, I don't have an
Yeah.
issue with any of the performance. These games look and play great, but
Hmm.
64 really could have used a lot more. We've been talking about how good
Yeah.
Sunshine and Galaxy are, but 64, man, they're
Eh,
using, they're using the Shindo edition. There's Shindo Pack Tie or whatever it's called.
something like that. Yeah.
They're using the revised edition of Super Mario 64, and that's
Hmm.
cool and everything because it fixed some bugs in the game. There's a little cool Easter egg where you can have a bunch of Mario's face on the screen,
Hmm.
but it just really feels lazy that it wasn't in widescreen. They didn't really fix any of the issues the game had. That goes
Hmm.
for really a lot of them. Actually, all the
It
games
was.
they didn't fix any of the
It
issues with.
was.
But
They
64,
didn't.
it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I mean, I think 64 is the black sheep of the bunch here, just because, like you said, it's not widescreen. But also I don't. I mean, I know that they said that they updated some of the textures to high resolution, but I don't know. It doesn't look like it for a lot of the locations. I mean, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, but there are mods that include high res versions of the textures in the game, and they look miles better than this port. And
Of course,
it's just a shame when a fan project for Mario 64 can have analog camera, um,
60
a
frames per
slightly
2nd,
60 frames per
widescreen.
second, widescreen, slightly better controls, and the option to at least have like character models that resemble the artwork from the game. But maybe that's asking for too much. I don't know,
I don't
but
think it is. I think they
it's
really
not.
could have gone all the way here, and we'll definitely get into that, but 64 just feels lazily slapped together. It doesn't feel much different than playing it on the Wii Virtual Console. I mean, it looks better, sure, but I really wish they did more with the game.
Hmm.
The game
Yeah,
is just, it's so old at this point. It's almost 25 years old that it
yeah.
really needed a remake. You know what they did in the original Super Mario All-Stars? What they did is they gave Mario 2 and 3 a new look, just kind of updated the
Hmm.
way the game looked. But they remade Super Mario Bros. 1 from the ground up, had the new graphics, better
Yeah.
sound, better controls, fixed glitches, quality of life improvements. But here, I don't know, man. Even if they used 64 DS and added
Hmm.
analog controls, and widescreen, of course, that would have kind of made up for it and made this collection feel more of value. They could add the original 64, but it just feels lazy what they did with it.
Again, even if we didn't get a remake, something like the PC Port Fan Project, which is, I'd say, essentially a remaster of the original game, I would have taken. It's just kind of disappointing. Especially since, honestly, Sunshine and Galaxy, I was only expecting kind of HD uplifts for them, just because both of those games hold up, I think, pretty well, besides for Sunshine with some minor issues. But 64, man, it really needed it really needed a facelift in one way or another.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think all of the games could have benefited from having issues resolved, kind of like they did in the original Super Mario All-Stars. There was no saving in the games before, it added that. In Mario 2, you
Yeah,
originally couldn't switch characters in between levels, or when you died. I mean, you could switch them in between levels, but when you died,
I
you
I
couldn't
would
switch your
have.
character in the NES one. They changed that in All Stars. If they added a
Yeah.
blue coin counter, and if they kind of made 64 from the ground up, and
Hmm.
maybe, yeah, I would say have higher polygon models for Sunshine. For some
Yeah.
reason, Galaxy 1 still looks perfect as is. Maybe
Hmm.
have better resolution textures and stuff like that. I think this
I
would have
would
been great. But,
I
it's
would
just
say,
a little,
yeah,
not a little bit, it's disappointing.
it is. One thing that I also think could have benefited was I, I don't know. I mean, they didn't have to do this, but kind of like for 64 and Sunshine, I would have liked for Sunshine that all the areas would be available to you from the start. You could go to whatever you want. Um, and then again, for both 64 and Sunshine, I would have liked that once you get a Power Star or a Shine Sprite, they don't kick you out of the level, right? If anything, if the next Power Star or Shine Sprite changes the level, then have that transition that you have in the beginning of the level to have it load. If you get what I mean, you know how there's like a little intro right before you start the level.
Yeah,
Yeah, just have something like that so that it can load it in. Easy peasy. There you go. I mean, because I think now more than ever, um, it's more noticeable with 64, just because Sunshine is a little bit more mission based. Um, that you have this open world, and once you get a star, you're kicked out of it again. You know,
yeah.
uh, it just, I don't know. I'm fine with this since I grew up with it, but it is kind of jarring jumping back to it after Odyssey.
Yeah, exactly. And so far we've gone over things in the present, or like, we've gone over how the games play. We've gone over
Mhm.
what we think of the collection of games. We've gone over pretty much the games themselves. And I think we've come to the conclusion that these games are great. Really could have had some quality of life improvements, but considering that these are
Yeah.
just emulated ports, they still play pretty well. Sunshine looks great, Galaxy looks great, but man, they really could have done a
Yeah.
lot more with 64. But let's get into the presentation because that's another part. This is supposed
Mhm.
to be an anniversary celebration for Super Mario Bros. And I gotta
Yep.
say this, the presentation in this game is the blandest thing I've ever seen. You get the title screen, which is just the star jingle from Galaxy 2, which is an extra
Mhm.
slap in the face, and that's it. It just looks like something they put together and, okay, we got to make a title screen. Okay, one day. That's all we have to
It's
make
not.
it.
It's not even like the whole star jingle. It's like the first 3/4 of it, and then silence. I was like, where's the last quarter of the song?
Yeah, exactly. And Super Mario All-Stars on the Super Nintendo, that had an original theme, and it was a little catchy theme, really nice to have. Even if they remade that and put it as a title screen, there's just, I don't know, complaining about a title screen seems kind of minuscule, but it just feels
Yeah.
slapped together. And speaking
No,
of
I
slapped
get
together,
it.
the
Mhm,
way you select games, I mean, it looks kind of clean, but at the
mhm,
same time, it's just really bland. There's a song playing in the background, random
mhm,
song. You just, you can choose the soundtracks to listen to, and that's really the only extra you get, but there's no way to fast forward or rewind the songs. It just feels
mhm,
really bare bones. So essentially, you're getting the soundtracks from the games, you're getting the games, of course, but that's kind
mhm.
of it. There's no art book or anything. There's really no extras. So it's pretty bare bones. I would say that,
And it's funny.
yeah, I'd just
No,
say that the presentation isn't very good in the game when it comes
mhm.
to being a celebration or an anniversary, because it doesn't really feel like it. It just feels, lazily slapped together. The Namco Museum games have a better presentation than this. The original
And
Super
they're
Mario All-Stars had a better
yeah.
presentation than this. Those Sonic Collection games like Mega Collection and Gems Collection have a
Oh,
better
they were.
presentation than this. I don't know
I
why
think
Nintendo
yeah.
was so lazy when it came to the presentation for this game.
Mega Collection, especially since I grew up with that, had an amazing main menu. Like you had comic books and guides and whatever and art and concept art. It was great.
Yeah,
I
and
think that's an example of an excellent collection.
in a few ways, this is a really good collection. Well, I
Hmm.
mean, but they really could have done a lot more and had more extras. Maybe some concept
Yeah,
artwork and stuff like that. I'll give you another good
yeah.
example of a collection that did a lot, and this was from Nintendo. Kirby's Dream Collection had 6 games, had a history area where you could figure out all sorts of facts about Kirby, and even some facts about the real world. So let's use
Mm.
2000 for example. You have one section that says Kirby 64, the Crystal Shard came out this year. George Bush was elected president of the US this year. So I guess that means George Bush is canon in Kirby, which that's really
Oh,
weird.
great.
But there were also some challenge stages where you could use some
Mhm.
power-ups from Kirby's Return to Dreamland. So there was so much love and care put into that. It also came with
Mhm.
a CD, and that was only
Yeah.
$40. What do
And
you
I was
think?
gonna say, no, go on.
The question is just, what do you think of the value that you're getting here? Because it's $60. Granted, these games are a lot bigger than something like Kirby's Return
Yeah.
to Dreamland. Not Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Kirby's Dreamland, the Game Boy games, and those games are
Mm.
2D platformers. These games are a lot more grand in scale. But would you say it's worth the
Um.
$60?
Mm. For me, for someone who's played the games already, I don't know. It's honestly, this feels like a $30 to $40 collection, if I'm being honest,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, let's think about
But
it.
yeah,
If Super Mario Galaxy costed $20 on the Wii U and 64 cost $10,
maybe
I'm
less than that actually.
yeah, I assume GameCube games would cost $15 to $20.
Yeah,
Sunshine's like $30 here in this collection, so I would
that'll be
say
about $40. Yeah.
considering they're just simple emulations, I don't think that $60 is a good price for this. If you've never played these games
Hmm.
before, I'd say it's definitely worth getting because the cartridges are super expensive nowadays. But,
Right.
cartridges and discs. Although
Hmm.
Galaxy isn't that expensive. I would say it's not that great of a value, but I don't feel ripped off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is that ironically, we've actually been asking for these games on the Switch. I think you and I, from the beginning, were saying we want GameCube games on the Switch. We want Sunshine on the Switch, right? And we got that, and it's great. You know, I just, to an extent, I wish they added more for the $60 price tag. I think Nintendo has a problem with pricing their games,
Oh yeah,
especially
totally.
ports.
Yeah, the
You know, like
$60 Wii U ports.
yeah, I mean Tropical Freeze as great of a game as it is, Funky Kong is not enough for me to pay $60 for it. Um, so
Although he would be in
uh,
Mario Kart 8.
oh yeah, for sure. But I mean I expected more from Nintendo, and it's just kind of a shame that they do the bare minimum for this 3D collection. Where's 3D Land? Where's Galaxy 2? Why isn't 64 at least,
In
properly
widescreen.
remade in
Yeah,
widescreen
remake
or
would have been
properly
better.
remastered? Remake or remaster, man. Even I would even say, remember those mini games in 64 DS? Why not have that as an extra mode for the main menu?
Yeah, exactly. There's just it all feels so corporate. It doesn't feel like there's any love in it. It doesn't feel like a celebration. Granted, the games are phenomenal. Galaxy,
Yeah.
Sunshine 64, all fantastic games that everyone should have the chance to play. But I feel like they could have done a lot more to make the presentation better. And by presentation, we're not talking about the games because other than 64, all of them look great. But I'm just saying, have a more fun presentation. Kind of like, how Mario Paint was very fun and it was cool with the title screen and everything, the music.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
music on the title screen. There's not much to do. I don't know.
You know what's
It seems
you
silly
know what's
complaining
funny
about
though?
menus, but presentation's a big part of games and I don't it
No,
just
you're
feels
right.
rushed, that's all.
You know what's funny though, I was just gonna mention, I'm not sure where this came from. I think it was from a data mine, the same data mine that they found out that these were emulated games. I think these games were only worked on for about 6 months, from what I've heard. And
That'd be a stretch, I
it,
think.
I don't know, man. It kind of shows, you know.
No, it'd be a
It's
stretch
kind of
because it feels like they were only worked on for a month. Just put in some simple emulations, which
oh,
they have the emulators and everything. It's just slapping them together, putting the
mhm.
game out there, and you know what I'm
What
saying.
what disappoints me more is that this is a Nintendo. They have their own codes. They're not Sega, where they lose the code to their games. I'm assuming here because I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Sega's better at keeping codes for their games than Nintendo. But what I'm trying to say is that if Nintendo has the codes for their games, right, the source codes, why not use that and optimize it for the Switch? That way you can properly remaster the games. Why does it have to be emulation? I don't understand. Like I mean I do. It's easier. But
Yeah,
I don't know. If it's your 35th anniversary and you want to make it special, I don't know. I would have made it with the source code. I would have fixed some of the flaws that the games had, you know. I wouldn't have remade them. I would have just done some quality of life improvements and done some things to make the games even better. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's so weird because I feel like I should be angry about this, but I'm not.
yeah, because
You
I'm
feel
feeling the
that way
same way
too?
too. And I'll explain exactly how I'm feeling about it. We're all aware
Mhm.
Nintendo has done absolute garbage when it comes to preserving their legacy content this generation. What, we have a few NES and SNES games? Okay, cool. But N64, GameCube, and Wii are where all the hype is. Those are the games people want. And it's great finally having these games on the Switch. But at the end of the day, I think the Virtual Console should be a staple on the Switch. Again, since these are the only ways to get those games, which, let's be real, I would have gotten them anyway on the Switch. It's
Yeah.
just, I don't know, I feel conflicted because it is disappointing. It does feel lazily slapped together in a lot of ways. But at the end of the
Hmm.
day, this is a collection of three of the greatest games, or three of my favorite games, and I'm excited to play
Yeah.
them on the Switch. They look great, with the exception of 64. They play great, and it's nice to have. Now, really, in the end, what I can say is that if you've never played these games, it's definitely worth picking up the collection. But if you've played them
Yeah.
before, you have to consider a few things. Is the convenience of having all the games on one system worth it to you? Is it worth
Hmm.
having them portably? You think that the HD resolution is enough to really get you into getting this game? Because if you have all of them already, it's really up to you to make the decision if you want to get the game, but I would say
Hmm.
it's worth getting, but you're it's not something I would highly recommend unless you never played the games before.
I would say just for the portability of the games, I would say go for it just because, you know, um, bringing Sunshine and Galaxy on the go, and 64 to an extent, is kind of a luxury that we haven't had before. I mean, excluding 64
Well, we
DS,
could
you
do that in
know?
2004 with a full-on remake.
You know what's funny though? My brother and I were kind of discussing why they couldn't just bring in 64 DS and remaster that, but I guess they want to stay true to the original, you know? Um, I don't know. It's just it's so bizarre, and I think what would make me mad is if they started adding quality of life updates later on in the game's life. You know what I mean? Like maybe, oh, guys, we're gonna add widescreen to 64.
Yeah, that
Why wasn't that there in
yeah,
the
that'd be
first
stupid.
place?
It's like people have already beaten the game by then. There's times where we want to replay it, but what's the point of going back? Like, oh, widescreen, let's go. I mean, Nintendo's been
Yeah.
terrible about doing this. They like to release games unfinished, then update them with these free updates, quote unquote, but it's not cool. But with this game, I don't feel like we're really going to get that. We could, but at the end of the day, these are three great games. There's just a lot with this collection that there is to like, and there's a lot to dislike about it and be disappointed about. But overall, I would say I've been enjoying it. I know I like these games, it's nice having them on the Switch. But I wanted to
Hmm.
get into one last topic before we end this. The limited
Sure.
release. Everyone hates this. Everyone's been criticizing it. Do you think Nintendo's going to listen? Because here's my idea, and I know it's kind of similar to what you're thinking.
Hmm.
So, we all know that this is a limited time release, and these games are running on emulators. You think they're going to release them separately on the Switch eShop and then maybe have a full on virtual console? Because that would be great. But,
Hmm. It's tough. It's really tough to say. I heard people putting the idea around of maybe N64 online or GameCube online or Wii online. I think that's not gonna happen. 'Cause I know Nintendo. I know they're gonna want to milk more money out of these games just because of the nostalgia factor we have for them right now.
right.
Uh, so I think there's one of two options. One, they re-release all these games on the eShop separately, and they launched a quote-unquote virtual console, right?
Right.
Along with Galaxy 2. Two, they announce that they're going to be re-releasing 3D All-Stars in a new special edition that includes Galaxy 2,
Ugh. I hope they don't do that
right?
last option, but I'd be fine with a virtual console.
And here's the kicker, right? For those who already own 3D All-Stars, Galaxy 2 would be a paid DLC. I see them doing that. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a lot of faith in Nintendo's corporate side anymore. I think we might have to pay like either an extra $10 or $5 or whatever to get Galaxy 2, if anything. And what's sad is that I might do it just because I bought the game for my little brother to play these Mario games on the go, you know? But it sucks that I have to be thinking negative about Nintendo like this. Like, it feels like to me they left Galaxy 2 out for a deliberate reason, to make more money,
Yeah.
and I get it, you're a business, right? But in the long term it's going to hurt your consumers, and at the base of your business, what's making you business?
The
Your
consumers.
consumers.
And if they lose
And in
trust,
this
they'll leave.
yeah. Yeah, and I already know a couple of people who are losing interest, such as I think Dreamcast guy we were talking about,
Yeah,
who
exactly.
who mentioned something about, not really interested in Nintendo. If they drop a cool game, then that's fine. They've just been so lazy this generation. I still love Nintendo and stuff like that, but like things like this, it just it kind of breaks my heart just because I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish we could have games that have a lot of heart again.
And there have been a lot of games on the Switch that have the heart. The ones I can think of is Breath of the Wild, even though that was also on Wii U. Splatoon 2 was really
Yeah.
good. Mario Odyssey, which is my favorite game ever. Love that game so much.
Mhm.
Then we got Smash Bros, of course. Yoshi's Crafted World, which is it's a good time. We got Mario Maker 2, which is great. Luigi's Mansion 3, which is easily the best looking Nintendo game ever made. Another fantastic game,
Yeah.
but I gotta tell you, this whole thing going on with Nintendo nowadays is just really disappointing. The $60
It
ports,
just feels
treating those ports as new games,
yeah.
releasing unfinished games, and then giving these free updates to, I don't know what they're trying to do, keep hype going. No, that just makes players
I
lose
don't
interest
know.
because Arlo said you play the game, you get bored of it if there's nothing to do, and you don't really want to go back. And then this is just another lazy thing that they did, but at the same time, I guess I'm not too disappointed about it because I love legacy content, and having these on the Switch is great. I just want to see more legacy content come to the Switch, but yeah.
I just it's just so lifeless when I go on my Switch and there's no theme. Like it's just bland, no music, no nothing. And I get what you're saying. There are games that Nintendo has that do have heart, but
I agree with you
there's
though.
not enough,
And we'll
And a lot of the games that we did discuss, Tennis Aces could have been a great game,
yeah, it
but
was
it was
unfinished.
rushed.
Same goes for Kirby.
It just
And Animal
I
Crossing I've
just
had
don't
a lot of
understand.
fun with, but apparently it's
Yeah,
lacking half of what New Leaf had, and that's not cool right there, but
it's just
overall,
I
before this turns into a
yeah, go on.
complete Nintendo rant, I think these are our full
Yeah.
opinions on 3D All Stars and just a little bit of disappointment, but also a lot of excitement. And
Yeah, I just,
it's exactly what I
I
expected.
think, oh yeah, same here. I mean, I think we could save our thoughts about this for another podcast, but I mean, for me, overall, a neat collection, not worth $60 unless you've never played them before or you really like these games on the Switch. Um, yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. Nintendo, stop with the sketchy practices, man. You're losing your fan base here.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say they're losing them quite yet, but I don't know what Dreamcast guy was
It's
saying. Things aren't really looking that great. I know there will be great in the
yeah.
short term and everything, but Nintendo, you gotta get your act together. Well, anyways, I think that about wraps it up. In the meantime, I'm gonna go pre-order a Super Mario Brothers Game & Watch before the two that they made go out of stock. I'm Demeech,
And I'm Ty the Guy.
and keep calm and da-da on.